Hey, we're Twin Tribes,
And we're at TPR.
and this is Digging SA. Love the bass line,
Yeah.
love the synths, the sweeps.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as I heard the name, I was like, okay, yes, we've heard and played with Mannequin, but as soon as the music
It's like,
started,
it's not
okay,
that
this is a
Mannequin.
different Mannequin.
Yeah, different Mannequin.
Still super sweet though.
Yeah, I mean, since I play bass, like I instantly go to the rhythm section, so like the bass and the drums, just like, you know, driving the whole song. It gave me like a Chameleons-ish vibe, you know what I mean? Yeah.
And listening to the recording, you can hear that it has to be like 80s maybe. It does sound a little lo-fi. The bass sounds really good. I love the
bass does sound
synth. Yeah, it's the first time that we hear this for sure though.
For sure. That's really cool, yeah.
It was written and came together in 1981. I mean, Mark Champion and I were best of friends at that time, and we were working on ideas together. We rehearsed the song. It spelled a lot of things. At that time, I was traveling through Mexico annually. Every year, it was going down. Mark went with my girlfriend and I one trip. And some of that song relates to traveling through the mountains and the areas of Mexico, but it also had a lot to do with living here in this country, with the, you know, our daily living, you know, just trying to make the rent and all that sort of thing. And yet this escape to Mexico was like there's a whole other life that has nothing to do with the day-to-day living and the doldrums of the gray winters, and because it was wintertime also, so it was gray here, but Mexico was all bright and sunny. And also, you know, I was a big fan of the Carlos Castaneda books, and so this thing about flying, you know, that's from Castaneda. Steve Sanchez was our bass player. Amazing. I think he's an amazing bass player. He was from England, so he decided he was going to go home and visit, and he was gone for about 7, maybe 8 months at the time. And so we didn't know what to do. Well, I mean, we reassembled, and Mark had been in the band and checked out, but he produced our second record, Return to Cinder. And then he knew we needed a bass player, and he said, well, I can play bass. I said, okay. So he picked up the bass and started playing bass with us. And Brian Pogue was on synthesizers and on piano. Brian's great on piano. And Frank Garcia on drums, and myself on guitar and vocals. And the Elka string synthesizer was my own, and I've always been obsessed with synth strings and mellotrons. I'm just totally obsessed with that. So I wanted as much of a big synth sound as we could get string sound, and of course reverb really helped that when we recorded it. It was hard to capture that live back in those days, for us anyway. And but Brian did it, you know, and somebody, I can't remember who, compared the synth sound on that song, the strings, to a band called Sensations Fix from Italy. And it does sound like Sensations Fix. He also used an APR, what am I saying? ARP synth on that song as well. So some of that's got that Sensations Fix sound as well. But yeah, the big sound with the strings was important for that song. It was necessary, and Brian got it. He knew I wanted the big string sound, but he was on his own. He was usually on his own. Let me be clear, when it came to keyboards. But no, he did that. I can't explain how he got that. You know, that's one of the, you know, you're probably aware of how synthesizers were back in the day. That, you know, there was knobs to turn, and well, I mean, there still is, but I mean, this is like real primitive type of stuff, and sometimes you didn't know what was going to happen when you turned the knob. You know? So, although sometimes that damn thing would go out of tune, it was horrendous. I would cringe when we were playing live and that thing went out of tune. Like when we played the Brave New Music Festival, we were playing A Desperate Situation. You can hear it if you watch that video. You can hear how bad it's out of tune. Ugh. Ruined it for me. I had to keep a straight face and keep singing, playing.
Cool.
Much darker.
Yeah, love the gated reverb on the snare. It's very drivey.
Yeah.
And love the guitar as well. It's still giving me the Cure. It's still giving me the Cure vibes. It's giving me like a little bit of Joy Division maybe.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, like it gives it's that darker tone, the darker notes that give that vibe. Those like off notes.
Yeah, there's a little notes that are clashy on purpose to keep it a little dark, and then the synth was really like bright and nice, and yeah, it sounds really cool. First time hearing this as well.
We went in the studio in '83 to record our first single. One of the songs, Internal Silence, we'd actually recorded as Platformer Youth at the same session for Looking for a Purpose. But now we had keyboards, so we went in the studio and changed our name to Lung Overcoat, and that's how it came out. I guess middle of '83. In the studio, we were certainly influenced by the early Joy Division stuff, so we tried to get this pitch shifting delay on the vocal, like on She's Lost Control, great Joy Division song. That was definitely intentional to try to find how to do that, because they had a tape delay there. The bass line I stole from Mannequin, a song called Poodle in the Microwave, where I was sliding up the neck, because that's what they did on that song, which I just always loved. Didn't steal all the notes, just the slide up was definitely from Mannequin. But we cut it 1 or 2 takes, and I think I overdubbed the vocal, but everything else was live. And then we just tried to get the snare drum to sound like Joy Division, with the reverb, and that kind of Martin Hannett was the famous producer over there. So we failed miserably, but we got something else out of it, basically. But it was a 16-track studio. The engineer didn't know what the hell we were doing, didn't know anything about that kind of music. Interestingly, at the same time, the Butthole Surfers were recording their first record. And I think the Marching Plague and everybody was kind of recording at that time. We're talking 1983. Internal Silence started off in a much more kind of punk edgy way. It was called Shock of the New. And there'd been a series on PBS then, this is when I was in high school, called Shock of the New, and it was all about modern art and how modern art was so scaring and shocking to people, and how how people just thought, oh, what is abstract art? What is all this stuff? What is this Jackson Pollock and everything? And so I wrote the song about that, how, here we are 16 years old and we're trying to play this new kind of music, and we're dressing different, we have different haircuts, and everyone hates us and everyone's threatening us. And to me it was, well, this is the shock of the new. This is how you know you're doing something new, is if nobody understands it. In fact, if everybody hates it, you must be onto something. So it kind of evolved, and when we went into the studio to record it, I had changed some of the words and changed the chorus a little bit, and suddenly it became Internal Silence.
It's definitely the darker of the three that we've listened to, right? So, that's like, now you're kind of like veering to what people would probably label goth, a little bit. But yeah, it's cool in its own way. And I hear that barren wasteland kind of feel that they were going for. So it's definitely in there, and I can see that.
Yeah, definitely love the drums.
Yeah, the drums are cool.
Love the vocals. I hear a little effect as well, and it all together it sounds really cool.